Hi there. The topic of debate says, should African countries integrate genomics into national One Health strategies to address their human, animal, environment disease interface? I am Kifelo Majoka from Botswana. I am with my teammate, Mr. Soma from Burkina Faso. We are Group 1 and we are Team Negative. That is, we'll be opposing the motion. Now, what is genomics? Genomics is concerned with the study of complete set of genes in organisms, focusing on their functions, their interactions with each other, and their relationship with the environment. That is according to the World Health Organization. One Health is a unified strategy that understands and addresses health challenges by considering and acknowledging the deep links between human health, animal health, both domestic and wild, plant health, and the environment. National health strategies are integrated plans designed to promote and protect the health of humans, animals, plants, and the environment by fostering cross-sectoral collaboration and coordinated action to prevent and respond to health threats, according to WHO. Honorable judges, esteemed opponents, and the audience at large, good afternoon or morning. We, the negative team, oppose the motion that African countries should integrate genomics into their national One Health strategies. Our argument will be premised on these 3 points. 1. Equity and justice issues. 2. Exploitation and unequal benefit sharing. 3. And lastly, cultural and social resistance. And so we argue that introduction of genomics might lead to issues with equity and justice. Without robust ethical safeguards, genomics may widen inequalities rather than improve health outcomes. It might violate equality and dignity, according to Article Number 1 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Genomics techniques like germline editing conflicts with the principle of equal worth of all human life. It also risks of genetic discrimination according to the UN CRPD Article Number 25. With genomics, the individual health risks and predispositions can be assessed and known. Individuals could therefore face unequal treatment in healthcare, insurance, or social services based on how their genome is. It can also amplify stigma and inequality. Limited protection in African context could entrench exclusion of people with disabilities, further undermining public trust. We also argue that introduction of genomics will lead to exploitation and unequal benefit sharing. Without strong intellectual properties and benefit sharing protections, One Health genomics risks repeating past mishappenings like the case of the San people in Houdia, a case of biopiracy. Traditional knowledge of the plant Houdia gonorrhea was patented and commercialized without the San people's consent, who are really the traditional holders of this knowledge. This raised concerns of biopiracy, which refers to the commercial exploitation of genetic resources without fair compensation. Benefit sharing was only introduced later, after global pressure, so we believe such cases might be repeated once genomics is introduced in World Health strategies. Now to our last argument. We believe that introduction of genomics into One Health strategies will lead to issues of cultural and social resistance within our African context. We believe that misunderstandings or mistrust of genomics among local populations can fuel resistance because of fear of genetic manipulation or misuse. A typical example was during the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Lack of trust between communities and authorities exacerbated by cultural beliefs, created operational mistrust, complicating surveillance and hindering containment of the epidemic. Some cultural or religious groups may oppose genetic testing or modification, seeing it as an interference with nature. For instance, recently in Burkina Faso, the Target Malaria Project was put on hold due to societal pressure opposing this project. This stemmed from concerns that genetics and genomics alter organisms in ways that could have unpredictable consequences. Now to the rebuttals. The affirmative team might point out that introducing genomics into One Health strategies will lead to preventing pandemics at source. To that, we have this to say. History will always remember how most African nations were hit with travel bans after scientists in South Africa and Botswana detected and reported on the Omicron variant for the first time. This was seen as a punitive move for sequencing and sharing data on Omicron variant. Unless and until the rules are clearly set and followed by all, inclusion of genomics in One Health strategies may unfortunately perpetuate such incidents. Now, for the second rebuttal, the affirmative team might point out that the introduction of genomics into One Health strategies will lead to precision public health for optimal resource allocation. We all know for a fact that Africa is made up of different countries, and these countries operate under different laws and regulations. And this whole scenario presents several challenges. One, the lack of consistent definitions of health data across these country laws. This inconsistency complicates cross-border data sharing and creates uncertainty for researchers and sponsors about compliance. Some countries' legislation does not specifically provide for cross-border transfer of personal data also. For instance, countries like Ghana. This situation prevents a challenge and creates a disjoint in the genomic One Health approach. For we know that diseases are not bound by political borders. So in trying to address a disease or a challenge in country A, and then the next country B, the laws are different. So in trying to follow up, that will be a challenge. Now on to the third rebuttal. The affirmative team might reason that combating antimicrobial resistance could be a reason why it would be wise or good to introduce genomics into One Health strategies. But the African Center of Diseases Control, Africa CDC, and Prevention has an AMR surveillance framework for 2018 and a genomic surveillance strategy for 2022. Despite the availability of these frameworks and strategy, the implementation is very different, or it's uneven across African countries. Sequencing data is often too slow to influence treatment decisions in real-time clinical setting for rapid diagnosis as needed. Better alternatives for genomics in combating antimicrobial resistance are available. For instance, strengthening antimicrobial stewardship and rapid diagnostic testing. This may offer immediate and cost-effective solutions. And so in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we acknowledge that the inclusion of genomics into One Health strategies by African countries is necessary and essential. However, given the current state of affairs for many African nations, as we just highlighted, we believe inclusion of genomics now will be premature and will likely cause more harm than good. And so we encourage more focused efforts on strengthening our policies and legal frameworks now in preparation of introducing genomics and One Health strategies in the near future. These are some of the reference materials that we used in preparing this presentation. And this, ladies and gentlemen, marks the end of our presentation. We will be opening the floor for any questions, comments. Thank you.